In the United States, old money, well, that's generally described by about 150 years old, with fortunes dating back to the mid-19th century, right? Around 150 years old. Families in this category, good examples would be like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies. But they invest differently, right? They invest in the things that last. They keep about a third in land, a third of their money in land, a third of their money in art, and another third in gold. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't own stocks and bonds. You should. But for long-term wealth preservation, you should also dedicate a portion of your portfolio to those three assets that the old money invests in. It's done them well for almost 200 years. It might do well for you, too. Now, my next guest, I thought he would have a few thoughts on this. Please welcome to the show, David Nelson. Dave, thanks for being on. I thought this was a fun one, so I'm letting you have at it.
There's a lot of old money right here in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Yeah.
If I drive a few miles from where I'm sitting right now, Scott, the names on the mailboxes are things like Pulitzer, Pfizer, Johnson from Johnson & Johnson. But I think you hit it at the top there. I think first you have to decide whether you're trying to accumulate wealth or whether you're trying to protect what you have. And if you're trying to protect what you have, then no question, gold, diamonds, art, and of course, real estate. It's a much smoother ride. It does wonders to protect your wealth in economic downturns, war, famine, depression, you name it. But, I'm a money manager. When it comes to accumulating the wealth, at some point in time, you're going to have to put some of your money in stocks.
Right. So I'm hearing you say the old money has got it. And now they're trying to keep it safe rather than trying to make it like we're all trying to do.
Exactly right. If you look at gold, say, versus, say, the S&P 500, and I'm going to be generous here. I'm not going to count dividends in the S&P 500, which is a big part of it.
Yes, it is.
But from the 20s to, say, 1990s, it was a fair fight back and forth. But since then, forget about it. Stocks have kind of taken over. Plus, gold has a new competitor. A lot of potential gold buyers are looking for a digital form of gold, and they're looking at crypto. And
that's been the case. It was like for 15 to 17 years. Now, and this is the joke, right? But that Bitcoin took the luster out of gold, right? But I also argue the fact that, don't you think a lot of these metals have taken off again because they're good conductors of electricity, and this AI play has kind of relit the fire for some of these precious metals?
It's certainly true. Well, certainly for copper, obviously that's not a precious metal, but metals have been on a tear. We left one out, real estate, really big. Can't ignore real estate because the U.S. tax system, if you think about it, it is so geared towards real estate. They have such advantages. You almost don't have to pay any capital gains taxes as you accumulate that wealth. You get a rollover effect, and then when you get to pass it on to your heirs, they get a stepped-up cost basis. When they sell it, they don't pay any capital gains. So if you think about it, real estate can be a real wealth accumulator.
Yeah, I absolutely can concur that because I've got a British passport. I lived in London for 16 years, and this idea of the wealth transfer and taxing inheritance, right? That was really their idea. That's an old English idea because they were trying to break up the monopolies of the wealthy barons in cities like London. They still own, and a lot of them still do own the land. They've gotten rid of some of those laws, but it's been able to let them keep their wealth. They charge ground rent. You can actually buy a house, but it's got a 100-year lease on it, right? It's insane. So leasehold versus statehold. So it's really interesting. I think that, to go back to your beginning point for the folks that watch the show, if you do have a ton of wealth, land, art, gold, diamonds, and the likes are a good trade. But then talking to a money manager like you, if you want to accumulate it, if you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s right now, you want to be starting to think about things that are going to benefit from a very loose Fed, a very accommodative Fed. Because I really do believe that that's the real reason why we've seen these great gains over the last 15 years.
Over the last 15, unquestionably, we had the biggest inflation we had was asset inflation, and that was in part and parcel was monetary policy. And now, we have a government that's trying to cancel what the Fed is trying to do. The Fed is trying to drain liquidity from the system, and the government is pouring it back in. So we're not getting anywhere.
Right. As Keith Fitzgerald says, take blood out of your right arm and put it back in your left arm. That's all that they're doing. Appreciate you coming on. Have a great 3-day weekend, David.